Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Watch Bad Films, the podcast where we watch bad films so you don't have to. I'm Gary, and with me is Jay.
Hello, everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful. Are you doing all right?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good, and we need to stop recording these bits because we never know what to say, and I always end up editing them out. So, Jay, before we get stuck into the meat, have you been watching anything interesting lately?
Yes. In a previous episode, I spoke about the rover, if you remember me.
I do, yes, yeah. When you were on your
Robert Pattinson.
that's his name. Yes, I wanted to say David Snaggletooth. That's not his name.
Yeah. So I was doing a little sort of series of films by him, or starring him. Sorry, or he is in. He might not be the main character. And one of those films was The Rover, which actually stars Guy Pearce and was directed and written by David Mitchell, who also co-wrote it with... Now, I can't remember this actor's name, but he plays Uncle Owen Jr.
Joel Egerton.
That's the one. Yes. So I looked up other films by David Mitchell. He actually directed The King, which came out, I believe, last year.
Yes.
Let's say a few months ago on Netflix, about Henry V, based on the Shakespearean play, which actually also stars Robert Pattinson as the
perfectly circular.
Yes. I haven't actually watched that yet. I haven't got round to it, but I have watched another film by David Mitchell, which is Animal Kingdom, which is set in Melbourne, Australia. Which The Rover was also set in Australia.
That's right, yeah. But then David Mitchell himself is Australian, right? So that's kind of...
Yeah, he is, yeah. And it did make me think, why don't we get more decent films from Australia? Maybe they should stop making dodgy soap operas and actually focus on making some decent films, and we'd get more films like this, Animal Kingdom.
Well, to be fair, a lot of nations do that. I think the UK both produce a lot of dodgy soap operas and have a decent film industry, and so does the USA. So, no one's immune from this.
No,
I don't think it's the fact that they produce soap operas that stops them from making decent releases. But Animal Kingdom, what's it about?
So it came out in 2010. It's about, I think it's based on a true story. The initial idea is based on a true story. So it's about a crime family in the suburbs of Melbourne. The main family we don't see initially. We see a young boy and his mother. It's no spoiler to say that the mother immediately dies at the beginning of the film, and this young boy... I mean, I suppose it's technically a spoiler, but really that is how the whole story starts. So I'm afraid that's how it starts. So get over it, everybody, if you haven't seen it. The boy, because he has no legal guardian, he's under 18. He has to go and live with his auntie, the sister of the mother, and the auntie is the matriarch of this crime family in Melbourne. And this boy, he initially is not very necessarily welcomed into the family, but the story is him in this dilemma of, does he go down the path of the crime family and sort of join the family business, or does he go the other direction? And in fact, Guy Pearce turns up halfway through as a police officer and is the angel on his shoulder, and the devil,
of course, he was in The Rover as well.
He was also in The Rover, and the devil on his shoulder is I've forgotten his name as well. The guy
Ben
who
Mendelsohn.
That's it, exactly. Director Krennic from Rouge One. And so he plays the antagonist, and Guy Pearce plays the protagonist. And this is the story of this boy who has to sort of make a decision as to which path he takes. A bit like Luke Skywalker, maybe. Who knows?
Okay.
But it's very good, Gary. In fact, if you haven't seen it before, which I don't think you have you?
I've never even heard of it. I was just looking it up while you were talking about it, which is how I could just spring the name Ben Mendelsohn out of nowhere. But no, I've never heard of it.
Well, you were chatting to me the other day about some of the dramas that you like Mad Men, but also I know that you're in the middle of a Sopranos fest, and it's like this. It's like being in the middle of a crime family and having to decide what path you're going to take. Obviously, it's only a film; it's not a series, but I think you'd like it, Gary. It's very well acted.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I'm in the middle of a rewatch of Sopranos, about the third time for me. I think it's the best TV ever made. It's a fantastic analysis of what it's like to live now, when everything's different and everything's changed to your father's generation, and yet how you have to present different faces to different people, which I think we can all relate to. We behave differently in front of our boss than we do in front of our partner, than we do in front of our family, and our friends. So, I think it's really interesting analysis of life, but it doesn't hit you over the head with it. It's very entertaining just to watch it superficially. And as you started describing Animal Kingdom about being about a crime family, that's immediately where my head went to look at Sopranos.
Yeah, I mean it's nominally the same, but actually it's not really like The Sopranos, in as much as The Sopranos is set up as the stereotypical Italian gangsters type family. It's not really like that. It's a much more sort of modern affair. But I suppose The Sopranos deals with the idea of the Italian gangster family.
Yes, very much.
Setting that in the real world, in the modern world, and does that have any meaning anymore? Is that a stereotype?
And equally within that, they reference Goodfellas and The Godfather all the time. They talk about how much they like those films.
But Animal Kingdom is, I just want to get across how good it is. It's a really good film. It's very well written. It's very well acted. No one's really seen it. I did get quite a few plaudits when it came out, 2010, but I think this David Michôd is a real talent, and
he's a real quiet worker. It sounds like, because I just had a brief flick through it, and he did War Machine with Brad Pitt, which I remember but I didn't see. And as you say, The King, which had a decent reception, but I don't think quite penetrated, the mainstream, even though it was on Netflix. So I think he's just waiting for the one big project that's going to tip him into the limelight, by the sound of it.
Yeah, but what I like about David Michôd is, even though he's had only a handful of films, he is an auteur, meaning he writes and directs. It's his project. He's the author of the project, usually. And so he's one of those kinds of directors, and they're often quite interesting. Having said that, I'm now realizing on this podcast, they're also usually the worst offenders.
Well, we have talked about this, haven't we? We have tackled this issue. The person that writes, stars, does the theme tune, etc., he can be quite bad, but it gives you a singular vision. And yet, a singular vision, can generate the best stuff, because that person knows what the universe of the film is inside and out, can just execute on it.
As you're also talking, I'm getting whiffs of George Lucas.
Well, I was thinking it too. So, I'm pretty sure no one has started listening to this show without clicking on the link that says what this show is about and what we're covering today. What film are we covering today, Jay?
This podcast is called We Watch Bad Films, and we're going to watch Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, our disclaimer here, I'm not going to talk for you, Gary. I'm going to talk specifically for myself here, because I think actually we probably diverge on certain aspects of this film. I don't think Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith is a bad film. I think it has bad things in it, but I don't think the whole is a bad film. And I think it is definitely, for me, the best of the prequel films. I don't know how you feel about it, Gary.
Well, I think rather than blurting my opinion out right now, why don't we go and watch it and refresh our memories? It's been a couple of years since I last saw it, probably. Let's go and watch the shiny Disney Plus version. You guys can listen to a trailer. We'll come back and we'll talk about it.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
The Council wants you to report on all the Chancellor's dealings.
That's treason.
We are at war, Anakin.
Very dangerous putting them together. I don't think the boy can handle it. I don't trust him.
I need your help, son. I'm appointing you to be my personal representative on the Jedi Council.
You are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
What? Obi-Wan and the Council don't trust me.
Learn to know the dark side of the Force, and you will achieve a power greater than any Jedi.
You're under arrest, Chancellor.
Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? Every single Jedi is now an enemy of the Republic. Do what must be done. Do not hesitate. Show no mercy.
Who could have done this?
Twisted by the dark side, young Skywalker has become.
I feel so helpless.
You were the chosen one!
And that was the trailer for Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Jay, before the sting, you said you don't think it's that bad, even though the name of the podcast is We Watch Bad Films. And let's be honest, we covered this because we went to the effort of covering Episode 1 and Episode 2, so it feels wrong not to cover Episode 3 as well. So I think this is mostly a bad film with good stuff in it. I think you tip that seesaw the other way, and I think you think it's a good film with a lot of bad stuff in it.
I do, yes, I do think that.
Yeah. Let's try and recap the plot. It's actually fairly straightforward in this one, in terms of we're largely following the adventures of Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. At the beginning, they are on a rescue mission to rescue the Chancellor Palpatine. There is a duel on a ship in which Obi-Wan is injured, so Anakin is able to kill Count Dooku under the urging of Chancellor Palpatine, who sounds suspiciously like the Emperor from the other films. They then get back and get split up into different missions. Obi-Wan has to go and capture and kill General Grievous. Anakin goes to do something else. I can't remember what. It transpires that everyone works out that Chancellor Palpatine is a bad egg and is a Sith. Therefore, Mace Windu goes to confront him and is killed, but not before Anakin rushes in to make sure Mace Windu does not kill the Chancellor. And it's at that point Anakin gains the name Darth Vader and starts then on a rampage of vengeance. At this point, in this film, we learn that Padme is pregnant with who will eventually be Luke and Leia, obviously. As part of becoming Darth Vader, the Chancellor also becomes the Emperor, as there is a threat to the galaxy, as he declares it, and therefore he must execute all the Jedi. The infamous Order 66, carried out by the clone troopers, executes all the Jedi, led by Darth Vader. When Obi-Wan learns of this, Obi-Wan confronts Anakin at the Separatist hideout on Mustafar, where they have a big old fight. Obi-Wan wins, something to do with the high ground, leaves Anakin for dead, Darth Vader. Palpatine picks him up, reforms him into Darth Vader. Obi-Wan manages to get Padme to safety. Unfortunately, she dies, giving birth to the twins. He smuggles them away with different parents to hide them from the Emperor. and that ends the prequel trilogy.
Okay, where shall we start, Gary? I mean,
where do we start? Well, let's start with the absolute dross in it, shall we? Which I think is the first hour of the film at least. I think. Okay, let me be nice. I can remember watching it at the cinema for the first time, which I'm pretty sure was with you, and back in 2005, and on subsequent rewatchings, the very opening shot is great.
Oh, it's brilliant.
It starts, and yet again, John Williams absolutely working his butt off, opening with those drums, which is not something he usually does in his standard scores. He does touch on it in Memoirs of a Geisha and a couple of other films, and this is the same period. But sounding these taiko-style drums to indicate the start of this thing, and then we follow starfighters around, which turns out to be Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's a really great opener. And finally, Anakin earns the line that Obi-Wan says in A New Hope, where he says, he was the best starfighter in the galaxy. Was it Star Pilot? One of those two. Essentially, he's earning that credit. Yeah. And the banter between them is okay when they land on the ship. But then the stuff that happens on the ship when they're rescuing Chancellor Palpatine, I think is messy. It's poorly written, terribly acted, which is code for directed, and is just full of people saying things that they should be thinking and getting across with their actions. Case in point, Anakin is about to execute Count Dooku, realizes it's a bad thing to do, and just says, I shouldn't. Rather than, emoting it, he just says it out loud, which is a classic Lucas trope.
But then that gives Palpatine the amazing line, do it!
It does, and for the first proper time, we see him morphing into the Palpatine that we know from Return of the Jedi. And then there's lots of awful dialogue in that area where Obi-Wan says, how did this happen? We're smarter than this. Again, just saying stuff out loud. I can remember, just feeling how bad that stuff is. I'm not wrong, am I? You're gonna defend that?
No, you're not wrong. But this is where I'm coming from. I think it's generally a good film with bad stuff in it. I don't think the bad stuff is enough to make it a bad film. But I totally agree with you. Things like that. Wait a minute, what's going on here? We're better than this, aren't we? Like that kind of stuff is so. Who is saying this? Obi-Wan Kenobi, A, would never speak like that, and B, why is he even saying it? I remember watching it first of all and thinking, I don't even know what he's talking about. We're better than this? We're better than what? What are we better than? I don't really understand what's going on, really. I mean, it's George Lucas. It's going to be absolute clunk fest when it comes to the dialogue.
But also, equally, that whole section doesn't make sense. It's all right if you look at it very high level and say they're rescuing the Chancellor. But you've dispatched what you thought was the baddie from the second film, Count Dooku, with no effort at all, really. And then you introduce General Grievous, brand new. It seems ineffectual anyway, and then just sods off in an escape pod. We'll catch up with him later. A big problem with this trilogy is always who's the bad guy. And you might sort of stroke your chin and say, well, isn't that the point? Who is the bad guy? But really, a film of this level, in this style, needs a very clear-cut baddie. Not just Darth Sidious, who is very shadowy, deliberately, and behind the scenes, but someone focal that our heroes can target.
Yeah, I now you're dissecting it. I'm starting to agree with you. Anyway, I totally agree with you. For a start, they should not have killed off Count Dooku. They should have brought Christopher Lee in much earlier into Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. He should have been the main, even if they didn't want to make him an outright baddie and make him a bit more vague and mysterious. He should have appeared earlier than the second half, the last third of Episode 2. He should also not have been killed off in the beginning of Episode 3. He could have been the main antagonist, the main obstacle that they have to overcome. Because General Grievous is a great idea on paper. He looks pretty good. He doesn't look amazing. But actually, he's not very well done, General Grievous. He's a bit stupid. and it comes across as a bit pantomimey, whereas an actual person as the main villain, Christopher Lee, would have been great. He would have been classy. He has the gravitas, and he's an icon.
And he could have escaped that fight, for
Yeah, of
for
course he
another
could.
point.
Of course he could. And also, can I just say, I'm going to start attacking this film now. Attack of the Sith. I really could not stand the bit when Christopher Lee arrives as Count Dooku in that weird room where everyone's
Yes.
sort of waiting for him. And then instead of slowly and menacingly walking down the stairs towards them, he does a bloody he jumps over, does a flip and a pike, and lands in some sort of plie. It's like he's doing Olympic gymnastics. It's embarrassing. The CGI is rubbish.
The CGI is not good in that scene.
Why? I mean, watching Christopher Lee, who would have been in his 80s, flip around about 10 times instead of just walking down the steps is embarrassing.
The mad thing is that the CG effect to transplant Christopher Lee onto the sword stunt fighting double is really good. That's all done really seamlessly. I was watching actually quite closely on this watch through and thinking, I can't see the join there where they've put his head on. I'm sorry, I don't know the guy's name. Whoever did the sword work for Count Dooku, and that's great. Why bother having him somersault over the railings in a really bad way? Who knows?
Is it Nick?
Nick Gillard.
Nick Gillard, yeah. And yeah, that whole scene. I mean, I know why that whole scene is there at the beginning. It's to show Anakin and Obi-Wan being jovial and buddy and getting stuff done and being really cool Jedi. But other than that, it doesn't really play much into the storyline, does it? I mean, if you actually think about what's going on here, the Chancellor, who, spoiler alert, is Darth Sidious.
What? You could have flagged out that spoiler better.
He has decided that he's going to play a trick on the Jedi. I'm going to pretend to get kidnapped. And
by my own apprentice Dooku,
by Dooku and General Grievous, and then I'm gonna get Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi to come and rescue me. And whilst that's happening, Anakin is going to kill Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus, and then they're going to rescue me, and then I'm going to go back to Coruscant, and that's the end of that plan. What was the point of that? He could have just killed. He could have just killed Count Dooku himself.
Yeah, and I want to interrupt here. I know this is partially explained in the Clone Wars cartoon, but that was only explained in 2020. Let's be fair. This is 2005.
They can stop retconning using the flipping animations to cover up the mistakes of the film. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm going to defend this film in a minute, but some of those decisions were wrong. But these are all story problems. There's script problems, there's story problems, and they're George Lucas's problems.
Yeah, I mean, and it is written. I even remember it on the special features for the Attack of the Clones DVD. George hadn't finished the Revenge of the Sith script by the time he'd started filming it. And we've seen that be a problem time and again. If you don't finish the script before you start writing or recording, you're going to have a mess.
I think it should be a civil crime to take an intellectual property and then wing it, and then make a film which never disappears, which is not quite good enough, and then we all have to just lump it. It's not good enough. It happens too often. And also, if you're going to make a film and spend $60 million on making a film or more, then write the flipping script first. Do the script, then make the film. Don't make the film and then make the script. I don't understand it, Gary. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. Apart from on the budget, which was $113 million.
Oh, God, there you go. There you go. Anyway, when they get back to Coruscant, that was all a complete waste of time. But there's some nice bits in it. But generally speaking, it's a bit shoddy.
Yeah, it's a bit shonkadonk. Yet again, poor Natalie Portman gets absolute trash to work with and must be directed into a hole because she gets terrible things to say about love has blinded you, which is like one of the worst
Oh.
things I've ever heard
Oh,
on
God.
film.
Oh no, I got a bit of sick in my mouth. I forgot. Yeah, I mean,
Get a
that
woman
is,
who says to you things like Natalie Portman says to Hayden Christensen,
oh God. I mean,
and
that
you'll be
scene
set for
is
life.
undoubtedly one of the worst scenes in all cinema. Right? I've seen more romantic affection between two footstools. I mean, it is so shodtastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've never bought their relationship over any of the films. I don't, it starts off creepy and gets worse from there.
They don't have much chemistry, but I still think this is George Lucas's script and directing problems. I think the actors, had they been given the ability to, I think they probably could have overcome these issues. Everyone hates on Hayden Christensen, but I don't think it's actually his fault. We don't have. I've seen other films with him in.
Quick interlude.
Yeah.
About the time when this was between the two films, actually, between Clones and Sith, I saw him in a play in the West End.
Yes, I do.
And Anna Paquin and someone
Well
else. I can't remember who. And it was pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, Christ, you're right. Yes. This Is Our Youth. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, which was written by again, I can't remember his name, but he recently released Manchester by the Sea, which is a great film.
Kenneth Lonergan.
That's it. Well done. Between the two of us, we got there. A very good film. Just as a side, I'm talking about some good films during this podcast, but Manchester by the Sea, very good film about loss and dealing with loss, and how actually in the real world loss is a very complicated thing and is not fully negative and is not fully positive, and it's a good film. Kenneth Lonergan directing and everything. But
not this film, I should add.
Not this film. No, but I've also seen Hayden Christensen in other films like Shattered Glass. He's very good in that. It's a good film, that. And I think had he been allowed to speak normal words and behave in a normal way, I think scenes like that horrible clunkfest between Anakin and Padme would have been much better. But how can you get someone who is like George Lucas, who is about as emotive as a piece of bark from a tree? How can he write passionate love scenes? How could George Lucas write passionate love scenes? I look at George Lucas and I don't think passion and
Sexy Times. Sexy Times with George Lucas. That's his spin-off series.
I look at him and I think of pudgy geek billionaire.
Well, you're not getting invited to his next do at the Skywalker Ranch, are you?
Oh dear.
Where do we move on to next? We've ragged on it a bit. I think General Grievous, I think you've mentioned it, is a complete waste of time. He's a complete red herring, and he's there purely to distract Obi-Wan so he can go and do something. So meanwhile, Anakin can fall to the dark side.
And yet again, to be the sort of like the villain, but actually he plays very little part in the story.
Yeah, he doesn't harm anyone nor kill anyone, and therefore ineffective.
Yeah.
Just has a wheezing cough. A cough, which, by the way, is George Lucas's.
Here's another extremely disappointing scene. Oh God, they're all coming to me now, Gary. I was the one trying to defend.
Line them up. Line them up. Come on, defender of the faith.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is in Utapau, and he's watched the separatists have a chat, and he's decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to leap down from this ledge, and I'm going to start attacking General Grievous. He leaps down from the ledge, and he says the famous line, "Hello there." And then General Grievous says, "General Kenobi." And then General Grievous goes to attack Obi-Wan Kenobi with lightsabers, and you think, oh, that's cool, he's got 2 lightsabers. And then he extends his arm and he's got 4 arms with 4 lightsabers. And when I first watched it, I remember thinking, oh my God. And he walks towards Obi-Wan Kenobi with these like spinning robotic lightsaber actions, and you think, how on earth is Obi-Wan Kenobi going to get over this? It's so exciting. And then literally 10 seconds later, he gets most of his arms chopped off, and it's just this really slow, clunky fight for about another 10 seconds, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi legs it onto a giant lizard. But also, I remember watching the documentary about 1,000,000 times and going back to that disappointing fight with General Grievous and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I remember someone saying, it might even have been George Lucas saying, it might have been or one of the special effects guys, where they're saying, yeah, we started with that, but then we couldn't really work out how to do it with 4 limbs and 4 lightsabers, so we cut a couple off, and then we just went to a normal fight. And I thought, you're admitting it. You're admitting that you didn't know how to do it and you couldn't be bothered. This is no way to make an amazing story go down in the annals of history. This is called pissing on your intellectual property. This is no good. Don't create a character with 4 limbs and 4 lightsabers and then say, oh, we don't know what to do with them, and then piss it down the drain. This is no good. This is no good. From the horse's mouth itself, they said they didn't know how to do anything with it. Oh, God.
You know what also bugged me from the very first time I watched it is how Kenobi jumps down and says, hello there. And it obviously clearly a nod to the Alec Guinness reading of that line. And yet the cadence is different. It's always frustrated me that if you're going to echo that line, copy it pattern for pattern. It's just off. You know, the way he says it, the way... and I can only imagine he had to do that 85 times. Let's do another one. Hello there, hello there, hello there, hello there, hello there, hello there. I imagine he had to do it over and over again, and they just picked this one.
Hello there.
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 And I'm pretty sure it's not Ewan's fault, because he was apparently quite studious in watching Alec Guinness's performances, particularly as a young man. Oh, this is proper Star Wars fan nitpicking, Jay, but it always bugged me from the second I saw it in the film on the cinema. And I was like, it's not quite the same. Why would you go close, like 90% close, but not 100%? Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Well, Gary, this is our podcast.
Well, yeah, if you don't like it, go and listen to Kermode and Mayo.
Yeah, but also, I would, first of all, I'd love to see the outtakes of Ewan McGregor saying hello.
84 previous takes. Well, there we go. Yeah, Grievous is a waste of time. The whole opening scene is a waste of time. Padme's dialogue is a waste of time. Is there anything left?
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Padme has very little to do in this film. In fact, she's technically the instigating incident that obviously she keeps dreaming of pain and suffering. Anakin desires more than anything to save her from death, and that really is dropped by Lucas as his main driver for turning to the dark side, in that he believes through Palpatine that he will learn how to save someone from death. And I think I've made you suffer long enough. I think we can start talking about good stuff, and let's go right to 2/3 of the way through the film. That scene where Palpatine talks to Anakin about how to save people. Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Which has become a bit of a meme, but it is frankly an iconic scene, brilliantly delivered by Ian McDiarmid, as everything else he did was. That's what makes this film for me. I'm about to say something really controversial here. I'm just going to say it. My favourite character in the Star Wars films is Palpatine.
Well, I've known that forever.
Therefore, this is his film, and therefore it makes it one of the best films for me.
My favourite character has always been Darth Vader, which is why I'm upset that he's such a whiny little bitch.
And some of the scenes that Palpatine is in are some of the best scenes in the whole Star Wars saga, as far as I'm concerned. And the controversial thing I was going to say is that I think that some of these scenes in this film are better than many scenes in Return of the Jedi.
Well, them's fighting words. So okay, let's stack them up. And you know, you can't be unfair here. You can't say the Rancor keeper mourning the Rancor versus the Opera House scene. You can't do that. That's not fair.
No. It has to be meaty scenes where it's about the story. But I totally agree with you. The opera scene where Palpatine is talking to Anakin about the Sith is one of the best scenes in all of the Star Wars saga. And really, what I'm saying here is that I think Return of the Jedi is. I love Return of the Jedi, but I think it is not free of criticism. And in fact, I think it's the worst of the original trilogy.
Oh,
Too
by a
many-
long shot. You know, if you've got two great films, and then you've got this other thing, which is not quite in the same category, but just
No.
has a lot of tying up to do.
And
And
I think really,
I don't mind all the Ewok stuff, you know, and I don't mind that the whole Jabba scene at the beginning, a bit like this Palpatine one, has nothing to do. It just has a James Bond kind of start. I can see that as a criticism, but it doesn't actively not make sense like this one.
no, but the premise of what the rebels are trying to do in Return of the Jedi is destroy the Death Star, which
Yep, very clear.
We've done that before.
Hmm.
The amazing planets we go to is a desert, which we've seen a million times, and a forest, which is
Once.
hardly the most exciting sort of landscape you can think of. Han Solo's got very little to do in Return of the Jedi, and
Well, that's easily addressed by the fact that he wasn't supposed to be there, of course.
no, but he's left in it, and that is the legacy of the film. And really, he in episode 4 and 5 is cool, he's witty, he's dangerous, he's a rogue. In Return of the Jedi, he's just moaning and bumbling and gets things wrong all the time. C-3PO has got very little to do. He's just basically the exposition droid by Return of the Jedi. I'm going to say this, that the best scenes in Revenge of the Sith are better than most of the scenes in Return of the Jedi, and I think only really the scenes that have the Emperor in save Return of the Jedi. That's
Okay,
quite
well,
controversial.
if C-3PO is reduced to the role of exposition droid in Return of the Jedi, what the hell is he in Revenge of the Sith? He's a plot inconvenience. That's what he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's a plot inconvenience in the whole original trilogy, which we have broached before.
Hey, who made C-3PO, Jay? Remind me.
Oh God, yeah. Please.
I just need you to tear down this film a bit more. That's all. Otherwise, you know, the Advertising Standards Agency will get on us for not actually having a bad film.
I can tear it down this film a bit more. What about this? What about this? I was so excited when this scene happened. Mace Windu has found out that the Supreme Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord.
A Sith Lord?
Mace Windu, played by Samuel L. Jackson, starts to get a bit of a swagger on. He collects a couple of his Jedi guys, and initially I thought, oh my God, Samuel L. Jackson and his Jedi buddies are going to arrest Palpatine. How utterly mind-meltingly exciting is this scene going to be? He opens the door with his Jedi buddies. There's some great dialogue with Mace Windu and Palpatine, but then Palpatine leaps at the Jedi. There's 4 Jedi, and he kills 3 Jedi in literally 5 seconds, and not in a fast, amazing way. In a clunky, like, oh, you're over there, are you? I'm gonna get you. Yeah, you're dead. Oh, and what about you? Yeah, you're dead. And then, oh, and you're dead. And then that's it. 3 Jedi are dead in the space of a few seconds. It is
In
so
fairness, isn't
disappointing.
that not just to put across the power of Palpatine, that he was this kick-ass Jedi all along, kick-ass Sith all along, and he was just there ready to kick some butt, and he was just holding back the whole time.
Yeah, I totally agree that that is probably what it was there for, but it was not done in any way well or good, which is the grammar I'm sticking with. It was, if you really wanted, okay, you could make a whole thing out of that scene with 4 Jedi against Palpatine, and you could have had like lightning. You could have had him throwing things at them. They could have been leaping at him, because also you do need to suggest that the Jedi are also extremely powerful. They're not stormtroopers who just die in an instant with no names or with no sort of no fight. That could have been an iconic scene, and you definitely could have made Palpatine come out on top as the most powerful Sith ever, but it would have taken a bit more effort than just literally 5 seconds and 3 Jedi are dead. I mean, these are members of the Jedi Council. They're the best Jedi.
Well, let's switch roles again. I'm totally happy with that for reasons I just said. I think you need something, and you need to use these jobbers, to get across how badass Palpatine is, right? And that he can actually fight, because then he's then going to take on Yoda for about an hour in the, political chamber, which again, you need to know that he's good enough to do that beforehand.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think it was really badly executed.
Speaking of executed, then that's when Mace attempts to apprehend Palpatine. The Force lightning falls back on his face, and Palpatine looks a bit weird after that. And again, that was another thing where I watched it at the time thinking, why have they made his face look all rubbery? Because it's nothing like how he looks in Return of the Jedi, which I know is yet another 20 years to come or so. But it always felt a little bit odd.
I can tell you why. Because George Lucas has got no idea what he's doing. In Return of the Jedi, the Emperor has a face as if he's about 200 years old. So the idea is that he's really old. And then when he appears in Episode 1, he's in his late 50s, early 60s, and you think, oh, he's not quite old enough, but okay, we'll go with it. We'll see where this character goes. And then in Episode 2, he starts to look pale and older, and they put old makeup on him and liver spots and stuff like that. Because, I don't know, halfway through the trilogy, they think, oh, he's going to get older and older, and by Episode 3, he's going to be really old. But then, at the beginning of Episode 3, he's gone back to being about 50 years old again, because they've got no idea what they're doing. George Lucas has got no idea.
I blame Rick McCallum, because I blame Rick McCallum for everything.
Well, there you go then. Rick McCallum, all of that gang. And then halfway through, then they decide, oh, okay, so actually, no, we've changed the idea. He's actually going to be old now because Force lightning is attacking his face from his own hands. Yeah, it made him old. That's what happens, because obviously that's exactly what happened when Luke Skywalker was Force lightninged. He turned into an old man. That's not
Wait a minute.
Right, okay. Well, yeah, whatever. He's just old now, and then he's the Emperor. That's it. I am up for defending it now, Gary. Let's defend it.
He said, cackling a little bit like Palpatine. We've talked about Palpatine and how great he is, so let's move past that. Is the duel between Anakin or Darth Vader and Obi-Wan as satisfying as it could be?
I think it is really good. I think it's a little one note because it's two really well trained actors attacking each other with ridiculous sword maneuvers. I mean, it goes Olympic standard with their sword maneuvers in this one. I think even Mark Hamill said that when he was filming Return of the Jedi, any of the Star Wars original trilogy, he said, George Lucas says, no, the laser swords are really heavy. You've got to hold them with 2 hands. They're really heavy. So when he was attacking with his lightsaber, he would attack it like a kendo, like a heavy kendo 2-handed sword, maybe like a broadsword. But then he said when he saw the prequel trilogy, they're flying these things around like they're batons, like whoo, whip, wow, they're chucking them at each other, they're doing backflips with them. And he said, yeah, I don't quite understand how that works in the timeline, but never mind. But I do think it is underpinned by very, very well directed and very well executed CGI and the score behind that scene is amazing. And I think actually that whole section was directed by Steven Spielberg. I think he was a guest director in that section.
He designed the sequence. I don't know that he directed it, let's be true, but I'm pretty sure he designed the sequence, as in sort of the blocking and the animatic.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes off better for that, I think. What do you think?
I think it's got light and shade.
What do you think about it? What do you think about that fight scene?
I like it, but I find it a bit fancy and flashy rather than impactful until it gets towards the end. You know, there's a point near the end. Again, they're in a really interesting location, but a bit like Attack of the Clones. It's in a location that's so green screen it hurts. You know, there's no reality, there's no grounding. I mean, just shortly after this, you had the rise of Christopher Nolan, who very much favours as much reality as possible. And so it was kind of Lucas pushing CG as far as it could go in 2005, which wasn't quite far enough for his dream, I felt. And therefore, I'm a little bit taken out of the scene because they do feel very floaty and green screeny. And I'm just not as into it as I could be.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's on either of the guys. I think it's just a production choice.
Yeah, I think it's a general problem with the approach of the whole prequel trilogy. But I agree with you. I think, generally speaking, it's a bit flouncy, but actually, I think it's a good scene. I think it's a good fight scene. It builds up to an amazing sort of emotional point. I'm just going to pick on all the memes that the kids use, and to say you have the high ground in a sword fight, I don't know if it works. I don't think that's the thing, because in a sword fight, you're not expecting the person lower than you to somersault over your head. Right. I've never been in a sword fight, but yeah.
I haven't either, but, you know, I don't think that's your defense. Haha, I have the high ground, therefore you cannot somersault over me.
What was he expecting Anakin to do, do you reckon? Like, oh, yeah, you have actually.
Jab him in the knees.
You win. Sorry, I have my lightsaber. I'll probably just go home now.
Throws it on the floor. Bugger it, you win. Yeah.
I do wish that George Lucas didn't continually intercut fights. I would have liked the Yoda and Palpatine fight to have been one big fight without it being intercut.
It's hard to know without watching a cut where they do it the other way, I guess, because you need the beats.
Yes.
There's no control. Yeah. I mean, that said, talking about the impact of the fight, the aftermath of it is impactful and it's painful to watch. You know, Anakin, you know, the violins are going, you know, are really trilling his death notes whilst he slithers and crawls in the ash and lava, burning to death. It's a horrible scene to watch for a kid's movie.
It's intense. It is intense.
Yeah, you're really there.
And it does actually, it brings the whole saga up a notch, actually, emotionally, because there's real stakes there. I also, and I just want to say, I do love the Yoda and Palpatine fight. I think it's generally really good. There's some good little lines that they say to each other. I love the line, "My little green friend." I think
my little green friend,
because you know Palpatine's been waiting and planning this for ages, and this annoying little frog keeps just telling everyone, "No, that's not right. You should do it this way." And it's like, shut up, Yoda. I know what I'm doing. I am the Supreme Chancellor, stroke Sith, stroke Emperor. So just shut up. I really love the scene where everyone is sort of in their own little areas. Padme is in her apartment. Anakin is wherever he is. And there's no dialogue. There's that really nice vocal, haunting theme going on in the background. And it's sort of like it's a breathing space before the tipping point of the end of the saga. I think that's amazing. I think it's always good whenever I watch it. It really is quite sophisticated filmmaking. I really like that.
Whatever journey I've gone through in the pile of crap preceding it, I cannot help but tear up slightly when I see Uncle Owen looking at the twin sons as the final shot of the movie, and the proper triumphant twin sons theme hits. It's just perfect, and I'm going to use a phrase that's going to ruin it. It's like poetry; it rhymes. But it is it's an obvious scene to do. It's the one you've got to do, but it's the right scene. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Is it good because of A New Hope, or is it good by itself? I don't know, but I feel it in the moment.
Yeah. I think this. I don't really understand why Padme dies when she's giving birth. We'll ignore that.
Nope.
But generally speaking, I like the way that all of the plot points come together, and everyone basically dies. Spoiler alert: everyone dies, and in the Empire.
From the moment Anakin is crowned Darth Vader, the film kicks up a gear, and suddenly this is where we need to be.
Yeah.
Now, he turns on Padme by mistake. He doesn't mean to. He turns on Obi-Wan. And then apart from the thing that we really do have to talk about in a minute, it's gold all the way through to the closing credits.
And also,
and the thing we have to go on.
The music is also amazing. I mean, I think it's one of my favourite.
John Williams is, I think I've decided, is my favourite musical artiste of all time. The countless hours I've put into listening to his themes, not just Star Wars, but back and forth through his career. It's brilliant. Go seek out some of the lesser known gems in his work. Dracula is a really good score from '79. There's so much good stuff. Catch Me If You Can, another great soundtrack, sort of jazz influenced. Really good stuff. So I almost don't need to say how good John Williams is. He's outstanding. But the scene we do have to talk about on a podcast with this name on it is comprised of one line of dialogue, and that line of dialogue is no. Darth Vader staggers from his in his new suit and says, which is, I remember at the time thinking, ugh, that's the cut they went with. And I didn't realise just how bad everyone thought it would be until I read other opinions online. But yeah, there's just so many ways you could go with that. You can say it, it's fine. But that particular read of it is not good.
I know that is one of the scenes in Revenge of the Sith which everyone hates. I don't mind it so much. I don't know why that is. I don't mind it so much. It definitely could have been done better, but and I do remember watching it the first time and thinking, oh, Darth Vader's sort of moaning. It sounds a bit weird.
Yes.
But I don't hate it. There's another no scene which also I watch sometimes and I think, oh, that's a bit silly, isn't it? And then other times I watch and I think, oh, it's all right. And that's when Palpatine is electrocuting Mace Windu and he says,
No. No. No.
But somehow Ian McDiarmid sells it. I don't know how. It is.
Yeah, he does.
It is a bit comical, but he's somehow okay.
Yeah. I mean, basically, McDiarmid should have shares in Star Wars because he's basically saved so many things. And I'm telling you now, he should be a shareholder in Disney because he saves The Rise of Skywalker, but only barely. When they wheel him out in The Rise of Skywalker, it's like, meh, the Wicked Witch of the West has arrived. Like the comical villain, and also sort of like there to save the saga.
We've been wittering and wittering. We can't get started on that film as well. Package that up for another day. How would you fix Revenge of the Sith?
Get rid of General Grievous. Keep Count Dooku. First.
Hey, do you know who was supposed to voice General Grievous?
No.
Gary Oldman.
Oh, interesting.
He was supposed to do it, but it had the whole union thing, and you know how Lucas feels about unions.
Right, yeah. Well, do you know what? Instead of having General Grievous as an animated character, Gary Oldman as an actual character would have been great.
Yeah, just call him General Grievous, and
Yeah, how cool would that have been? You could kill Count Dooku then, and then replace Christopher Lee with Gary Oldman. That's not bad.
That's not a bad trade, is it? Not a bad.
Yeah.
2 Draculas, yeah, very good.
Not bad, not bad. I'd go with that. But generally speaking, we'd keep Christopher Lee in. I would get someone in to write a better script for Anakin and Padme in their scenes. How about that?
Mm-hmm. I think you need to tidy up her death all round, really. To say she died of a broken heart, I was like, no. It's odd.
Absolutely no sense. I mean, what if he really wanted to go with like the idea of Anakin being the chosen one, then maybe her death is part of the chosen one being alive. The offspring of the chosen one will cause life and death, or something like that, or maybe bring back the midi-chlorians if George Lucas absolutely desperately wants to. But to leave her death completely unexplained is just lazy, I think. In fact, she doesn't even need to die, does she? She doesn't need to die. She could have just gone on living.
Yeah, because that just leads to another messy line in Return of the Jedi where Leia says, "Oh yeah, I remember my mum. She was kind of sad." And like,
but it's already messy, isn't it? Because
because Darth Vader made C-3PO.
When in Return of the Jedi, when Luke is talking to Leia about, tell me about your mother, your real mother. I always left that scene with the impression that Leia had spent some time with her mother as a young child, and Luke had never.
Absolutely.
But actually, what happens in the saga is that no, that's not quite right. Neither of them spend any time with her. They literally come out of her, and then that's it. So it's not really clear. It doesn't really make any sense. No. What would you do to make it better, Gary?
Well, we need to clear up who the villain is. Bin Grievous. Keep Dooku alive a little bit longer, so it's clear who that is. Maybe twist it somehow so he appears to be in charge of the Jedi. Anakin really is cross with the Jedi for everything they've done. You really need to sharpen up, I think, Anakin's motivation for turning a little bit more. I think that could be polished a bit. I think you can probably lose the whole first hour of the film, as I've said, and just replace it with a bit more baddie is bad stuff to set up Anakin's fall a bit better. It still feels a bit sudden that he turns on Obi-Wan. That is never earned, I don't think, and yet it's supposed to be the crux of the whole film. Somehow that doesn't ruin it entirely, and yet, we need to hear Obi-Wan saying things that he can twist in his head, or Palpatine can twist for him. There's a little bit of it, but I think you could have much more of it to make the fall much more. I would actually love to see, and we said this in Attack of the Clones, I'd like to see more Clone Wars and not have, shoved it away to an animated series, but to see something of it, it just would have made so much more sense.
Yeah, you could have had the first half of the film, the arse end of the Clone Wars, where Obi-Wan and Anakin are in battle, and they're commanding clone troopers, and they're doing all of their buddy shenanigans stuff, but they're actually doing it in the Clone Wars instead of trying to rescue Palpatine, fighting Dooku, and then it's all over.
Yeah, it's messy, but saved by the end, I think.
Yes, I think it is messy. It is messy, but I generally think that it's a much better film than the others and most of the Disney films. And I think the good parts of it outweigh the bad. I'm going to say that. I'm not actually sure I'm convincing myself here. But now that
do you know what would have saved the film better? Is someone to have actually watched the original trilogy just before they started filming it, because there's so many little things they could tidy up to help the connections. like a couple of the lines we've already mentioned, which just kind of clunk along and they don't really glue together properly. Hence, they have to write a whole goddamn cartoon series to help paper over the cracks.
Yes. And also, if somebody had actually written the script before they started filming it, that probably would have helped.
Yeah, little bonus. Why not, eh? Treat yourself. I ask you my usual question, Jay. Would you recommend Revenge of the Sith?
Yes, I would recommend Revenge of the Sith, actually, because if you've never watched any of the Star Wars saga and you want to do it in story order, starting from episode 1, going through the episodes in order, you could actually have quite a good experience by missing out episode 1 and 2 and then starting with episode 3. You get the basic story from episode 3, and actually it has some of the best scenes in it from the whole saga, even though it is clunky and messy and needs some work, let's put it like that. I would recommend episode 3. Out of all of them, I would recommend episode 3. Out of all the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. That's a fair comment. Well, Jay, thank you for that. I feel thoroughly eviscerated now, and I think I'm going to go and take the high ground.
Yeah, good. I'm just going to go and reattach a couple of my limbs and find a really nice black breathing suit to wear once my granddad has resuscitated me.
You do like to overdo things. I mean, what do you think of Revenge of the Sith? Yes, you out there. I mean, if you've got an opinion and you think we missed something or we got something completely wrong, or you just want to tell us how great we are, come and find us on Twitter. We Watch Bad Films. Alternatively, drop us a line at wewatchbadfilms@gmail.com and we'll happily wade through that. That's all for now, though, folks. Goodbye.
Goodbye.